So 2020 and 2021 were kind of crazy, and in the M&A space, probably the craziest event or series of events was the e-commerce boom and everything around that. During this time, consumer activity shifted almost entirely online. E-commerce businesses were now seen as serious future-proof assets, and business valuations started going into the millions. However, now in 2022, business valuations, because of a series of current events, are dropping back down to normalized values. So let's talk about what primary factors are contributing to that drop and what you as a seller can do about that. So first, how did we get here? Well, the pandemic, of course, caused a lot of consumer behavior to shift online. A lot of brick and mortar stores were going out of business. Amazon was buying empty malls and buildings to convert them into fulfillment centers. And at the same time, there were these online businesses known as aggregators who were buying only e-commerce businesses and bringing all of these brands together under one portfolio. And the first aggregator to make this business model public was Thrasio. And in 2020, they reached a valuation of 1 billion. And then 1 year later in 2021, they were valued at between $3 billion to $5 billion. So this was seen as serious business. And as a result, a lot of new aggregators and VCs just swarmed this business model, and that created this buying frenzy. Now you had these institutional buyers with millions of dollars, and everyone was essentially competing against each other to acquire brands as quickly as possible. So the name of the game was to get these individual brands and bring them under one portfolio that was managed by a team of specialists. So this became an amazing time for Amazon store owners who in some cases had aggregators competing in order to buy their business. And when that happened, they were receiving crazy offers, and sometimes they would be closing a business deal, 7-figure, 8-figure business deal, within a matter of weeks or even days of listing their business on the marketplace. So now in 2022, it's a completely different story. Buyers are having trouble even selling their business or for selling at anywhere near the multiples that they saw even in the year prior. And a lot of sellers are frustrated by this. So let's talk about what is actually contributing to this shift. And the first thing contributing to this is the shift in the buyer's market. So valuation multiples are really a reflection of what buyers are willing to pay for a particular investment. So if a multiple goes down, it just means that buyers aren't willing to purchase the businesses at that same valuation level. And there are two main reasons why aggregators are now unable to buy businesses at the same level. The first being VC funding, and the second being the performance of their existing portfolio. So in this current status of global market uncertainty and economic decline, VC funding to aggregators has significantly declined. So now because of this, aggregators who would want to buy your business now must use the funds from the profits of their existing portfolio. And this leads to the second problem, which is the performance of their existing portfolio. So a lot of aggregators are seeing that there were issues now with some of the acquisitions that they made, some of the investment decisions that they made, and their portfolios now are underperforming. That e-commerce buying frenzy that I described earlier had three main problems. The first being that valuation multiples spiked significantly, and sales also spiked significantly during the pandemic. So any investments that were made were really only justifiable if the business continued to perform at that same level, even post-pandemic, which as we can see is not the case. Second, the amount of competition during that time caused buyers to purchase as quickly as they could. And because of this, aggregators found that they had businesses that were actually underperforming. And so now the due diligence process has become far more strict as a result. And the third issue is that aggregators just bought too many businesses. And because of this, their resources were spread thin across a large number of brands. And they found themselves now having to just try to maintain their business as opposed to the goal, which was to grow the brands and scale the portfolio. So now the aggregator strategy is to have fewer brands, allocate more of their existing resources to those brands, and to grow the prized few. Now, the second variable influencing multiples is the seller side, or specifically the performance of e-commerce stores. So performance has dropped, I'll just say that. And the two main reasons contributing to that drop or the decline in profit is a decline in revenue and the increase in expenses. So first is the decline in revenue. Right now, there's just a lot of uncertainty in the world, and when that happens, consumers tend to spend less and save more. And as a result, of course, this causes a decline in Amazon FBA stores. The second point is on increasing costs. Global supply chain issues have made it far more expensive to manufacture and ship products. So what you're seeing is less profit per unit sold. And when investors are looking at businesses with even, let's just say the sales levels remain the same, but profitability is decreasing, that just doesn't help buyer confidence when you're looking at a declining business. So what can sellers do? Well, the two options are either to hold and see what happens in the market, or to sell now. Some sellers are deciding to hold and see if the market rebounds to previous levels. Now, just understand, if you are considering doing this, understand the opportunity cost of not investing into assets that are performing. Of course, the other factor to consider is that with inflation rising, the value of liquid capital is declining. So if you're considering selling, but you wouldn't reinvest those assets into other investments, you might actually be better off holding. Now let's talk about the option to sell now. Some sellers, and a lot of sellers, are choosing to sell now and accept lower multiples so that they have the liquid capital in order to reinvest in other online businesses that are performing well right now, so that they can scale those and then sell those assets, or to reinvest those into other asset classes altogether, such as real estate, stocks, or crypto. And we actually wrote about a method of buying and selling businesses to very quickly generate a lot of wealth, which is called the Asset Flywheel strategy. And I'll link that in the description below. Now, if you decide to sell and work with a brokerage, just make sure you're looking out for specific tactics that certain brokerages use. And one of those is inflated multiples. So just make sure that you're watching out for brokerages that offer much higher multiples, because sometimes what can happen is you agree to list your business through a specific brokerage. It's listed initially at a high multiple and you just can't find buyers for your business. However, because you signed an exclusivity contract, you are required to keep that business on the marketplace for at least a few months. During this time, you might feel pressured to decrease your business multiple because you're not getting any bites from buyers. Just make sure you're paying attention to that, and make sure you're working with brokerages that have a protected marketplace, meaning that buyers have to unlock the listings, and it's verified buyers, meaning there are buyers who have verified their identity as well as their liquidity to ensure that you're only getting serious potential buyers looking at your listing. So at Empire Flippers, we use real sales data based on the hundreds of Amazon FBA businesses that we've sold. And we look at, of course, where the current buyer appetite is in order to set our multiples. Our objective, of course, as a brokerage is to sell your business as quickly as possible with the highest justifiable business valuation. So we set our multiples to accomplish that objective. Of course, every seller is different. You have your own goals, your own timeline, and it's a very personal decision to exit a business. So what we recommend doing is just having a conversation with one of our sales advisors to determine if it's right for you to exit or better for you to hold. And if you are considering exiting, we recommend speaking with a sales advisor well in advance, because you might have to prepare your business in order to even get it ready to sell. And in some cases, that could take you up to several months. Of course, if you even just have questions, you can reach out to us. Or if you like these videos, you find them helpful, feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.